Hello everyone, welcome to Parsha with Passion. Today we are deviating from the Parsha once again and talking about something entirely different, but appropriate, as you'll see, and that is narcissism. Yes, being a victim of a narcissist. Now, you might be wondering, why am I going into that? What are we talking about over here? And let me give you a little behind the scenes information. Over the past few years, and even more so over the past few months, I have been exposed both to narcissists and to the people who are in relationship with them. And I have firsthand experienced huge suffering at the hands of narcissists, as well as helped others to move past their suffering. And what we've got right now in our world is a situation where narcissism is rampant. And if you are not in the know about narcissism, I don't blame you. I also wasn't. Fortunately, most people aren't. Unfortunately, for the people who suffer, it is something that is nearly impossible to describe. It's a private hell. It's an invisible type of abuse. And it's something that causes untold damage and pain. And I feel that what I can do right now today is to explain narcissism to you, so that if you are going through a narcissistic relationship, you can have comfort and direction. If you have a friend who's going through a narcissistic relationship, this will open your eyes to the kind of suffering that they're experiencing and the type of support that they need. Because this type of abuse is so invisible, the experience of being alone and of thinking that you're crazy is that much more acute for the victim of a narcopath. It's like they're living in their own private torture chamber. And I'm not exaggerating. And you see this very often, tell me if you've seen this. You see a couple, they're so cute. He's so charming, he's so wonderful. And then they get divorced. And he's on the board of the school directors. I mean, it can't be him. And he's successful and accomplished. And something's the matter with her, and maybe after that she goes off the derech or something, and you're like, oh, I don't know what's the matter with her, but somehow, can't be him. Like, he's a perfectly normal guy. I see that. Little did you know that he continues to make her crazy even as they share custody. This happens all the time. I'm not even talking about one person. You can have a couple that's divorced. Here's an example I saw with my own eyes. So the woman, I'm just going to make up a name and call her Kayla. Kayla's a wonderful mother. She and her daughter had a school production. So there she was at her daughter's school production, and it was the day that the husband, was supposed to have custody. And so he tells her, if you don't have the kids back home by 10 o'clock, which is the time that we made up, I will lock you out of the house. Of course, I will also call the lawyers on you, because you know that you have to listen to the lawyers. And they said, and you agreed, that this is when the children will be home. And I can't help it if you're an irresponsible parent. And there she is, and her kid is in a production, and it's his kid too. And the kid's in the middle of performing, and she's torn. Do I be here for the child? Do I snatch the child home, so that I won't be sent to court? What should I do? And she's stuck in this horrible, powerless feeling. Oh, he is dancing away, married to someone else, just, creating an entire facade for the rest of the world. Now, if you don't know about narcissism, you might think, well, that's an isolated example. That's like one couple that, the guy is upset. And it's so much more insidious than that. I've just seen a recent bout of examples in like local magazines about when your child becomes friends with someone who's not good for her, right? Or him. This is, This is, narcissists come in every gender at every age. So you read this article, my daughter became friends with someone. They spent so much time together. The girl looked really nice, but I sensed that something wasn't right with my daughter. And then my daughter became isolated from other friends, and I couldn't understand it. And the girl was still nice, but something was bothering me, and my intuition was off, and I didn't know what to do. By the end of the year, I couldn't recognize my child. You have this all the time. That is narcissism at work. That is a sick person torturing your child. And how does that happen? We have to understand, number one, how does it happen? Number two, what are the stages of narcissism? Number three, what kind of support does a victim of narcissistic abuse need? And I'm giving this talk before Rosh Hashanah because, in Rosh Hashanah we try to repair relationships before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. A narcissistic relationship cannot be repaired. It cannot. It's with a sick person. You can't make a sick person better. You can only try to heal yourself. But what can get repaired is the people in the victims' lives who didn't understand what they were going through, who can give them more support. Because you understand that the narcissist is a faker. They run on power and charm, and to the rest of the world they are just the nicest people on the planet. The narcissist only surrounds themselves with people who think they are God's gift to humanity, or to people who have learned to be quiet and never disagree with them, who have just learned to shrink themselves. Anyone else is just a victim. I've had people related to me go off to seminary, make a fabulous friend, only for the friend to drop them like a hot potato in a minute when they came home. Tear them apart, crush their heart as if they don't exist. And this is completely part of the narcissistic pattern. So let's take a look at how someone would possibly get into a relationship with such a crazy person, what it looks like to be in that relationship. And again, as you're listening to this, it might feel very, very foreign to you. What do I have in connection with a narcissist? Maybe that wasn't your life experience, but I'll tell you something. When I was healing from a relationship with a narcissist, I needed some support. And someone who knew both me and the other party said, listen, I can't support you because I'm friends with both of you. The dog can't be out here. Guys? Bitzal? 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 Can you tell them to take the dog back in? Hooper? Nishama? People can't have the dog out even on a rope. She barks during my class. Bring her in. So let's take a look at the stages of narcissism. And I actually went on this website called Relationshipedia. It was sent to me by someone who has been in relationship with narcissists and who had been, and they were suffering tremendously. Imagine someone is your best friend, even as a grown woman. You do everything for them. They do everything for you. You spend tons of time together. You start to rely on them. They start to integrate themselves into your life. All the while, you don't realize all the millions and thousands of times that you are overriding your intuition that something doesn't feel right because you're a normal person. And your assumption is that this person is also a normal person. So it wouldn't occur to you that there's anything else going on besides two people in relationship. And then one day, they drop you. Or they stand up in front of your whole community and tell lies about you. A person who the day before you were baking challah with, or the kids were in the park with, it just flips on its head. It's unbelievable. So we're gonna go through this. So this person who had gone through this found this website called Relationshipedia. She starts reading and she's like, oh, this is me, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going through. And that's what happens. People go on Google and they say, they Google it. They're like, why didn't my friend accept my apology? Why is my partner always right? Well, why do I always land up losing in a conversation when I'm trying to say what I need. Why? Because you're being manipulated, because you're being put into a corner to make you feel small, confused, and disempowered. And your disempowerment actually gives power to the narcissist. They love it. It's a supply and demand thing. You are supplying them with a feeling of aliveness, because the narcissist is a shell of a person. They don't have a strong core. How they get their sense of self is by evoking emotional reaction within you. And that's why the first stage of the narcissistic relationship is called love bombing. So I'm going to read to you a little bit, okay? Because it's so easy for us to judge. You know, if I tell you, oh, she was in a relationship with a narcissist, you'd be like, what's the matter with her? Maybe she's unhealthy. Maybe she was needy. No, it's as easy as being seduced into a piece of chocolate cake. Easier, even. It plays into every human emotion. So I'll read to you a little bit because I just feel like this inside look is so important. I'll try to skip around so it's not too lengthy. So here's the quote: if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. But if it walks like a duck and talks like a swan, it's a narcopath. In this stage, the narcopath pours on their charm to lure their target to emotionally gain his or her trust. The narcopath becomes the ideal partner and portrays themselves as generous, loving, caring, empathic, and romantic individuals. They all, without exception, use a technique called love bombing to some degree or another. Within the first few weeks, they will often claim that no one has ever made them feel this way. You're my best friend. I waited my whole life for you. I just feel like we're kindred spirits. We're bosom buddies. Do you want to come over? I have this. I brought a present for you. It doesn't end. And this is both in male-female relationships and in female-female relationships. It's, male-male relationships, the same thing. The narcopath will also claim to share the same interests, values, and dreams as their targets. But actually, this is love bombing. You know what it's bombing away? It's bombing away your natural good judgment so that you become vulnerable to what the narcopath really is about to do to you. And if this sounds insidious, it is. And you know, I davened before I made this talk for you that I portray a narcissist also as one of Hashem's children. Because we're not talking about good and evil people over here. Good and evil. Well, we're talking about good and evil behaviors. A narcopath is also suffering. I understand that. But that's not what you need to understand for this talk. Before we go on to the second stage, the first stage being love bombing, I want you to understand something. And this is part of a framework that I wanted to give at the beginning. Torah culture is all about having a good eye. We want to see everyone with a good eye. We are scared, and appropriately scared, to lay blame on people. But in that fear of laying blame, we sometimes miss putting blame where it belongs. We sometimes stay in denial and don't let us see what we need to see, that there are bad guys and good guys. Everyone's a precious neshama. But based on your actions, you are a bad guy. Based on your, there is something wrong going on here. There is a person who does need support. There is a victim. As much as you don't want to villainize anyone, that doesn't take away from the fact that there is a victim. And you have this even from a rabbinical standpoint. You can have, authorities trying to make shalom between people that there can't be shalom with, because one person is just sick. And by telling the victim, just do it a little this way, do it a little that way, you're reading into things too much. You're making too much of a big deal. I've seen the nice side of her. I've seen it, so I know she can't really be torturing you like this. But by minimizing it, you are actually inflicting tremendous pain, even from an authoritative place, on the person who was the victim, because now they have no one. Now they have no one. No one believes them. There's no one to talk to. Even an authority figure can't be on their side, so to speak. And so it's a very, very big challenge. I'm not saying it isn't, and I'm not saying that we should jump around speaking Lashon Hara and making accusations, but there is room and there is a place to say, I know that this isn't fair. I see that it's not right that he's calling you back from your own child's production and making you choose between being dragged to court and letting your child finish her show. I see that, and it's not right. And I will not continue to be friends with him. And again, I said that with hesitation. I have to think if that's the Torah hashkafa, but it is tremendously painful when your abuser is now buddies with everyone else because everyone else is just wooed by their charms. That's a very painful thing, and you have that even with parents. You know, I've been friends with people whose mothers are narcissists, and it's like this private world where their mother does untold damage to their self-worth, self-esteem, and makes their whole life so abusive. And then to the rest of the world, they're just, you know, Princess Diana, they're just Queen Charming, they're just so nice. And it's kind of like, okay, so what happens next? So first you have, let's say this is not a parent or a sibling. Let's say you're just get into a relationship. So first, love bombing. You're the exact person I ever wanted. The total idealization. And next, what happens? Stage 2 is called the devaluation. Slowly devaluing you. Okay? The narcopath who once loved and admired everything about the target and showered the target with love and adoration and attention will begin to criticize and nitpick, a form of abuse, much like browbeating, just about everything the target does. The displays of love and affection will fade, and the narcopath will demand more and more from the target while giving less and less. Listen up. This is where it gets horrible, and this is true. You have to understand that this experience is repeated by thousands of people all over the world. Millions of people have this exact experience. It's not like one person got involved with a crazy person. This is the illness. Confused by the narcopath's sudden change in behavior, the target will instinctively work harder and try to please the narcopath and restore the relationship back to its once perfect beginnings. Right? That's normal. Like someone's upset with you. Okay, so I'll change this. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. The narcopath will delight. Here's the illness. Will delight and take satisfaction in seeing the once confident, happy, successful target slowly sinking into despair caused by the narcopath's intentionally created chaos and confusion. The narcopath's ability and desire to emotionally control others gives them great pleasure and reinforces the narcopath's need to feel superior and in control. The narcopath has an illusion, a false self of himself, a false sense of power. And as the target, your job is to feed that power. And when you don't feed that power, then they find a new way to get it. So if you're worshiping them, so powerful, delicious love bombing, now they got it. If you're pining away for their approval, if you're trying to make them happy, this is a great place. They're not just going to say, oh, you made me happy. They're going to enjoy your groveling. Could you imagine? And so there you are thinking that you're in a relationship with a normal person, but it's not normal. You're fixing things is not fixing things. And then comes, and there's tricks with that because they'll be nice and then not nice, kind of keeping you on your emotional toes so that you think you're crazy. And this is tremendously isolating from other people. Someone that I know was in a relationship with a narcissist, young married couple, delicious. She tortured him. She just took this young man who came into this marriage with so much promise and slowly began to control everything that he does. Basically, all he grew up with is, you have to be a good husband, make your wife happy. Well, it doesn't make her so happy to go to the family affairs. It makes her uncomfortable. Well, it doesn't make her so happy that he only works one job. He should really work two. Well, it doesn't make her so happy. So he's dancing around trying to make her happy, all the while becoming less and less and less of a human being. And the painful part comes at the end, because at the end, when the narcopath has used you up, when they've gotten what they wanted from you, and you're just down and out, and there's almost nothing left to you, so that sense of power that they get isn't so much from you anymore, they drop you. They're done with you. And they blame you for ending the relationship. Could you imagine the pain? What happens to the person who gets out of a relationship with a narcissist? they're left with a feeling of, I couldn't handle a relationship. I don't have the relationship skills. They're left with the feeling of, I'm not good enough. Deep, deep, deep in their psyche is a feeling of, I'm terrible. One of the tricks that a narcissist uses is they label people. Oh, you're forgetful, you're forgetful. They can tell someone who's not even forgetful that they're forgetful so many times that a person believes it. And then when they're in an argument with that person, they'll say, well, you wouldn't get this because you're forgetful. You probably forgot all the details. They literally create a trap for the person. When a person is in a conversation with a narcissist, let's say you go to a narcissist and you say, look, or imagine it's early on, you say, I want to talk about something. Sometimes when I speak, I feel that, your attention is elsewhere. It feels like you're not hearing me, not ignoring me, which they are ignoring you, which is part of the control to make you want them more. You're spacing out, and it would really mean a lot to me to have your full attention. And instead of addressing that very honest human need, they'll flip it on you, and they'll say, yeah, I've been feeling the same way. I feel like you actually have a problem with giving attention to people, and I've been experiencing that myself, and you'll be like, what? I don't have a problem with giving attention. I always try to pay attention to you. And they'll be like, no, you really don't. And it's causing me so much untold harm, and before you know it, you're on the defensive. You came into this conversation to say, I really want to fix something here, and before you know it, you're defending yourself, and you walk away from the conversation feeling utterly confused. And that's what's left at the end. So give me a moment to gather my thoughts and to see what else I want to tell you from here before we kind of come to the end. This type of relationship is like, she gives the analogy of a boiling frog. How do you cook a frog? They jump away. You let them swim in water, and then you turn the fire on, and then it just heats up so slowly that they don't jump out because they don't realize that it got that hot. That's true, by the way. Disgusting. That's what happens at the beginning of the relationship. It's like, it's not so comfortable. It doesn't feel quite right. But you just think that it's you. Or you think that it's them, but you don't have anything to pin it on because all the words that they're saying are so rational. They're not. They're lies, but they come out rational. And then you see them in relationship with other people and you say, these are normal people. Like, everything, it must be like, it must be me, it must be us. I have to work on myself, I have to work on the relationship. And before you know it, things get deeper and deeper. And the lies that they tell you literally straight to your face. I once had someone tell me that I step on people to get ahead, which is very, very interesting because my MO is how can I lift up other people? How can I help them with their life mission? Like, that's my thing, is I want everyone to feel good. Like, let's just even say to a fault, I want to make everyone feel good, So when in this relationship that was told to me, I was like, wow, do I do that? Let me try to find places where I do that. Do I do that? Okay, maybe I do because whatever. And I start to think, could it be my ego? Maybe I'm all this. Maybe there's things that I'm not noticing. Meanwhile, a narcissist, you must know, projects. Whatever a narcissist says, whatever lies they tell you, it's a projection of their reality. So you can have a husband who accuses a wife of being unfaithful when he in some way or completely is unfaithful. And he pushes all that aspersion and suspicion on her in the creepiest of ways because actually that's what's going on with him. So I want to say a prayer. For some reason, this is it's a scary topic for me to talk about. I don't feel fully qualified. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a PhD. I haven't read 100 books. I've read up some. I've experienced some. I've helped other people with their experiences. And what I can tell you, and so it's strange. I find myself in a strange role that it's me that's giving this over. but but I feel that I must. I feel that Hashem is with me in giving over this, even though it feels so radical to me. You know, I'd much rather be giving over like love and affection, but this is a loving message, because there's people who, you know, women who are divorced, men who are divorced, whose wives treated them like garbage and you wouldn't even know it, or the opposite. Or young girls who suffer, especially when they're away at seminary or when they're away at camp and there's no normalizing family environment, and they go away and they get into these horrible, messy relationships, and even adult women who get into these relationships. And what I want you to know is that the recovery time for a victim of a narcissist is very long. It's extremely long. Number one, they have to separate completely from the narcissist. That is the number one cure. And when you have an ex, you really can't do that. And so you're left to grapple with it, and you need an extra amount of support, because you have someone who is constantly telling you that your reality is not reality and wants to make you miserable. And that's their pleasure. They want that for their power. It's horrible. So number one thing is to get that person out of your life. Number two, there's a mourning of a loss. The loss of a friendship that seemed like it was, or the relationship that seemed like it was going to be the love of your life, the friend of your dreams, the answer to all your prayers, the most comforting of your hearts. And a narcissist knows how to do that. They know how to snuggle up to your heart and say just the right words. There's no one in the world like you. We all need validation, and you had it. That person had it. And so there's a tremendous loss of that friendship. And then there's the loss of the person's self. Who am I? What is left after this relationship? What is left? Who is this person? Somebody gets divorced and they're not only discarded, but they're just left with a completely no sense of identity. And so much of what they were told of their identity is a lie. So they just have so little left in them. And so with all these losses, recovery takes a really, really, really long time. For some people, it can take years. When I read Relationshippedia and I saw the comments, you know, that people responded to the articles, you see people in absolute agony. I'm telling you, if you haven't had experience with this, you don't know what I mean. If you do have experience with this, you know exactly what I mean. The agony is like a writhing in pain. I'm feeling this and I can't understand what I'm feeling. So please, if you're in a relationship with someone who had that type of relationship, I'm not asking you to enter into a gossip fest. I'm asking you to be patient with their recovery. That it takes a really long time to rebuild a self that has been dragged down and diminished for so long. So my prayer is that this video and this talk reaches the right people, that if you are in a relationship with someone who's bad for you, this gives you the strength to look at it and get clarity and realize that it's not your fault. It's just a really sick person and maybe you want to get out of it. Or if you were in a relationship like that. And that if you know someone who is in a relationship like that, you stand by their side. If you don't want to talk about the narcissistic element, then don't. But certainly stand staunchly by their side. Support them, encourage them, build them up. Be a support for their life, especially an ex-wife or an ex-husband. To be alone and divorced is bad enough. To be alone and divorced where someone's trying to torture you is the worst. It really, really is the worst. And you just need people in your life who believe in you and want to help you live, period. Okay? So my blessing to all of us is that Mashiach should come soon. The world should be repaired. Our hearts should be repaired. Even the sick people, the narcissists themselves should get better. And the people who have been hurt by them should get better. And we should be able to look past the surface of the stories that we judge and realize that there's more to know that we don't know. Before I knew about this, I wouldn't even have known. I just wouldn't have known. If Hashem hadn't sent me all these people in my life who had shared this same experience. It's a real thing. So we should be able to love each other and be non-judgmental and be there for every person and have the integrity to say, yes, you are a victim and I want to honor your experience. Okay, have a very good Shabbos, everyone. Bye-bye.